This is the SX3 Electrics. This is the electrical cabinet. These are the modifications I've done to it to fit the mounting plate for the automatic tool changer. Just drill out the 4 holes. Now I've removed the cabinet. I removed the main plate here, and I have, well, to remove the cabinet, the loom comes through for the motor and the control panel. All that was removed previously from the spindle head. Then I had to remove the electrical connections for the motor. These go through the loom. These particular ones fit here, and you need to undo those. Luckily the position of them is indicated here, and they have the matching labels on here. So a SB, orange one, there's SB there. With the power side of things, this is the motor W92-1000A, 230 volts, 3600 revs per minute, 6 amps, 100 watts. And it tells you the brown, U/brown, V is red, W yellow, green, FG. So that's the main supply. The control supply, red S+, black S-, yellow is SA, orange is SB, brown is SC. So if we see my colours are there, there's the brown SC, there's the orange SB, here's the motor, it's got blue as the U, indicated correctly, brown is the V, and red is the W. These particular ones came in there. So all these were hanging through here, down here, and like that. These are going back into the original position. These other ones were for the controls, the front panel. This one here is the E-stop, K4 and K3. Now instead of having the panel on the head, it's going to go underneath and be on a pendant in the front of the machine. So these are going to be rerouted underneath. The actual control panel for the press buttons and the tacho, that's also going to be rerouted. And this is the tapping switch, where you have your, on your spindle, the quill, you have the buttons. That's the sensor. That's going to go into the control, electronic control panel. So that's going to go in a different direction. On the front panel, you also had a little green indicator light on the front of the spindle. Now, I'm going to reposition it. On the actual front panel itself, it's soldered in, so you have to unsolder it before you can unbolt it. So I'm just going to mount this above the switch motor, the switch for the motor power, and I've drilled a hole just in there. So just the distance above it, that's where the switch fits. You have to remove the switch to be able to pull the panel out. So sort of like building a car by putting the radio in first, and then these are only screw out terminals. When I pull them out, I like to write down where they go, and I take lots of photos. Now this is the conduit you need to remove. They only unbolt, unscrew, that's no problem. The holes, I couldn't find that type of connector. I've looked, and they sell the actual cable for about $5 from SEIG, but it costs you $50 odd to get it shipped out. So I have not been able to locate the specs for that plug-in. So my pendant can only be the length of the cable away. So that's just the connection that fits on there. And in that cable was also running these, and this. So hopefully the stand will be wide enough and not too wide for it to reach. The power cables is mounted on the cabinet here. They run up to the switch, and the switch is connected to here, but it's also connected to the filter. Trouble is, if you want to take this particular panel out, you have to unscrew them. You can't unscrew them because they're sitting in there, so you have to take off the front cover, the plastic cover, which is clear, then the yellow cover by pushing these lugs in, then unscrewing this cover which fits on the outside, then pulling the switch out. Then you can then get to the screw under these. Like I said, I always like to write down on the actual terminals where they go. See, that one's already marked before I pull them apart, and then a piece of tape on them to indicate where they go in case that falls off or rubs off. So I will be reinstalling that. I will be shortening this lead, soldering it and putting it on. Part of the CNC mod is to mount the stepper motor on the column. The particular method I did, and that is why I had to remove this whole panel, so I had to cut off about 120mm off the end. So I tried my little guillotine, too thick, so I used the counter rotating blade saw, and that cut it quite fine, filed it up and redrew. Now the reason why that's been cut off is that panel goes down to here. The stepper motor fits on the top, so this had to have clearance to fit the panel on. Then there's room underneath here to get the other wires from the X and Y table, come through, limit switch, and adjust the tension on the pulley. So if there's any problems, I just have to undo the back panel and it'll fit. Now setting, while we're on the limit switch, I've set it so as this is 10mm from the top, so I just wind this up to a certain distance, measure that just so that's 100. I know it's to be 90, so when it's still 100 I measure from there to the top of the plate that's used to trigger it, that it runs on. So I just say that's 200, so I know that needs to be then 190. So you then just measure that with your calipers or your ruler, and you lock it up and it's set. You know that that's going to be the measurement. You can wind it up by hand, test it, put your multimeter on there so as it makes a buzzing noise. Then when you just come up, you set it, and you can set it within a thou, just by tapping and measuring, and then as it comes down, I've got the height from the centre to the table, so when the spindle hits the table, well, 5mm away, I've set this bottom one. Same thing again, you can wind it down or just measure it, and if that happens to be 300 now, and you know that the head is 200 odd, you know that's 100, so you just do your maths, work out the distance, measure from the top to there and set it. Then you know it's right, because once the panel goes on, you won't be able to adjust them without removing the panel, and to remove the panel you'll have to remove the stepper motor. That's not a big deal, but it's not a quick job, so you need to do it at the start.